This screencast is going to focus on some more complex language searches that you'll need to know how to do as part of your language study, both in Greek and in Hebrew. And essentially the goal will be to discuss how do you find words in proximity to one another. For example, how do you find a noun with an adjective or a verb with a particular conjunction. So the goal will be to focus on those words in tandem with one another, not just single words or a single morphological category. But I do assume that you know how to do basic lemma and morphology searches. For example, you know how to find a particular word in the Hebrew Bible, or you know how to look for a particular tense of a verb within the New Testament. If you have any issues related to that, what you'll want to do is to go to the DTS, the Dallas Seminary Logos training playlist. And there is a particular video there on lemma and morphology searches that will show you the basics. And I'm assuming you know how to do that. As we go forward, we're going to be focusing on how to do proximity searches within Logos. When we talk about proximity operators in Logos, there are basically 4 operators that Logos uses, which are pretty common to a lot of Boolean type searches that enable you to do this kind of work. They are before, after, within, and near. Each one of those works with a particular order and handles the words in a particular way, and they make good logical sense. For example, the before operator will find one term that is before another. The after operator inverts that and will find a term after another. The within operator is really useful because it will do a search simply within proximity without regard to order. The near operator, in my mind, is less useful because it is a kind of an odd bird. It will find things near one another, but it's limited to, I think, 48 particular characters. So we don't really think in those terms when we search the biblical text, so it's not nearly as useful. So essentially what we're going to do is focus on the within proximity operator as a way to do more complex language searches, both within the Hebrew Bible and within the Greek New Testament. First, I'm going to show you how to do a proximity search within the Hebrew Bible. You'll notice that I have open here the Lexa Hebrew Bible, and I want to offer a quick explanation as to why I'm using that as opposed to a version of the BHS. In the DTS student package, there is both the Lexa Hebrew Bible and the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia, the Stuttgart Electronic Study Bible edition, which is part of the regular package. But there are, unfortunately, at this present time, some technical problems with the BHS SESB edition that don't allow these proximity searches to work all that well. Logos knows about these technical issues. They are in the process of fixing them, and a fix should be released in the near future. But at present, that makes it not the best tool to use for these kinds of proximity searches. So we're going to use the Lexa Hebrew Bible, which is essentially the same as the BHS, to do these kinds of searches. Like most Hebrew Bibles, whether in digital or print, the Lexa Hebrew Bible is an edition of Codex Leningradensis, which is the oldest complete Hebrew Bible. And so it's practically the same as BHS. The only difference between that and other editions of the Hebrew Bible is they differ slightly from each other in terms of how they read the codex or when they correct it. But for our purposes, it's practically the same text, and it will get us the same results and can be used quite effectively for these kinds of complex language searches. What I want to do is to start with a lemma search and then show you how to turn it into a proximity search. So let me open up a search window, and I need to make sure that I'm doing a morphology search. And as you can see, the last time I did this, I was looking through the New Testament, but I want to work obviously with Hebrew, so I'm going to switch to the Lexa Hebrew Bible. Let's just do a lemma search for the word chesed. And so in order to do that, I'll type LEMMA : and then I'll switch to the Hebrew keyboard and then type the characters for chesed, and then you'll notice the drop-down menu will bring me the particular option here. The one I'm looking for is the noun form, defined loyalty, obligation, faithfulness, etc. I'll click on that, and then I can very quickly execute a lemma search. Now, what I want to do actually, though, is a proximity search in which I find 2 or more words together. And so let me show you how this would be set up. You'll see here on my command line that I have the search for the lemma chesed, and now I'm going to use the within operator to set my proximity search. And so I'll need to switch over back to the English text and then type in all caps the word within, and then the variable is the number of words we want to allow in between the terms. And so I could say, for example, 5 words. And again, the syntax will include the word words, so I need to type within and then a number and then the word words, as you can see here. And then what I'll do is I'll type the next term. So let's assume that I want to find the term chesed in conjunction with the term emet. So I would then switch over to a lemma search. And so let me type the word lemma and now switch over to Hebrew and type the appropriate Hebrew characters. And then I'll pick from the drop-down the term that I want: firmness, trustworthiness, constancy, etc. And so what this search is going to do is to find the word chesed within 5 words of the word emet. Now notice that the within operator does not take into account order. If I want it to be order specific, I would need to use either the operator before or the operator after. But most of the time we want to go both directions, so to speak. So this is going to be the better way to organize my search. So once I have everything on the command line that I want, I can hit return, and then it will find all of the occurrences where chesed and emet occur within 5 words. And then I could play with this. For example, if I wanted a wider range, I could go back and change this to, for example, 10 words. Or if I wanted to go with a shorter, tighter range, I could go back and change it to 3 words. But within the results, you'll see that chesed and emet are in close proximity. They're each highlighted differently, and then I can use the display feature to display another Bible, or I could, if I wanted to, remove this if I wanted to simply look at the Hebrew text. Searching within the New Testament text is going to be done exactly the same way. The syntax will be similar across anything that you're going to search. So what I want to do now is to search within the Nestle Aland 28th edition for a particular word, and then I'll do a proximity search where I find 2 words in tandem with one another. So let me open up my search window, and let me change this back to the Greek text. And the process will be very much the same. I'll start with a lemma search, and so let me type the word lemma, and then colon, and then the particular word that I'm interested in finding, which in this instance is going to be charis, grace. And then I'll click the appropriate term from the drop-down, and then I can execute that search. Let me make this a little bit larger so that it's easier to see. But now let's imagine that I want to find not only charis, the word grace, but also aletheia, the word truth, so I can find the phrase grace and truth, or when those words occur in proximity with one another. What I will do now is go back to my within operator, and let me change back to English, and now type within, and let's say 5 words. And now I'll type the next lemma that I'm interested in finding. And now that I have those together with the appropriate operator in between, I can hit return and it will execute the search. So here are the places where charis and aletheia occur within 5 words of each other. And again, I can play with this. I can create a wider range by changing the number to within 10 words. Doesn't substantially change my results. I could make it more restrictive and say just within 2 words, and that will obviously change the results. But the long and short is using the within operator makes this kind of search very, very easy to do when you're looking for lemmas that occur within close proximity to one another. It's important to remember that this search syntax we've used to find lemmas in close proximity can work also with morphology. So, for example, just to illustrate the point, let's go to the Hebrew text and see what we can find interesting in terms of morphology close to one another. So just for the sake of interest, let's look for a cal perfect within 5 words of a cal imperative. Whoops. And notice that with the within syntax, this is not going to take into account word order, so the imperative may end up showing up first. But let's see what we can find. Oh, look, and there we go. We've got lots of cal perfects within 5 words of a cal imperative. Now to complete the illustration, let me show you how this would work in the New Testament with the Greek text. The syntax is going to be the same. Let's imagine that I want to find every place where a future indicative is used within 5 words of a, let's say, an aorist. Oops, it looks like we got a little bit of a display issue here. There we go. Within 5 words of an aorist indicative. It looks like the system is trying to drop down a lexical window, so just click outside of that to get that out of the way. And then once I have all of that set up, I can simply hit return. And it will show everywhere I have a aorist indicative within 5 words of a future indicative. And again, keep in mind that the within does not take into account word order. If you wanted to take that into account, you would need to use the before operator or the after operator. The before operator makes much more logical sense because it takes into account the order in which you're going to type the words in the command line. But the long and short is that using the within operator on the command line enables you to do more complex searches. You're able to find lemmas within close proximity. You're able to find particular morphological forms. You could even mix those up and find a lemma followed by a particular morphological form. It just depends upon what you want to do. So this is a good way to do some more complex language searches, and I encourage you to give it a try.